A dismissed Philippine Mayor Alice Guo has been cited in contempt for a second time for allegedly continuing to lie before the Senate. Investigations into Guo's purported criminal ties have resumed days after her arrest and deportation from Indonesia. This is Guo's first appearance before the Senate panel since she fled the Philippines in July. She has been accused of fraud, money laundering and human trafficking. Alice Guo became mayor of Bamban town in Tarlac province back in 2022, but authorities later found that her fingerprints matched those of a Chinese national, Guo Huaping. During the hearing, Guo refused to confirm her identity despite the findings and insisted she was born in the Philippines and not China.
Madam Chair, lumaki po ako, alam ko po ako ay isang Filipino.
One senator described Guo's testimony as, quote, blatant defiance of the legislative constitutional power of inquiry. The Senate had ordered Guo's arrest in July after she repeatedly failed to attend the hearings. The former mayor is being linked to operations of an illegal Philippine offshore gaming operators hub. This was raided by law enforcement authorities in Bamban just a few months ago. And for more, Berna Bernal joins us live from Manila. Berna, what are some of the key findings from today's hearings?
Controversial personality Guo Huaping with alias Alice Guo was cited in contempt by that Senate panel for what lawmakers described as her consistent evasiveness and persistent false testimony before that committee here at the Philippine Senate. Now, Guo is of course being linked to this crime-ridden Philippine offshore gaming operators or POGOs, which have since been banned by Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. last July during his third State of the Nation address. Now, the hub that was raided in the northern Philippine town of Bamban, according to Philippine investigators, have been engaged in human trafficking and money laundering. And she was previously the mayor of that town, despite her Filipino identity now under questions, with authorities unraveling a birth certificate mill in southern Philippines where she and over 1,000 others supposedly secured civil registry documents. Before that panel Monday, she insisted she's Filipino. She insisted she was born in the Philippines and grew up in the Philippines. Of course, this drew the ire of lawmakers as they projected a document coming from the National Bureau of investigation showing that her fingerprints matched those of one Guo Huaping, who is a Chinese national who entered the Philippines in 2003. Now, a question here is how old she was when she entered and how old she was when she supposedly falsified documents. Because if her Chinese document is to be believed, she is 34 years old now and around 13 when she entered the country. If the Philippine passport is to be believed, which authorities now say was falsified, she is 38 years old now and was around 17 in 2003. And there is a limitation on criminal culpability in the Philippines by virtue of a statute called the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act. So that might limit criminal culpability to persons 15 years old and above. Of course, there are other charges against her: money laundering, qualified trafficking, tax evasion, all still under preliminary investigation before the Justice Department. She also has a graft case in a court in the northern Philippine province of Tarlac, but this has surfaced concerns over the political influence she wields because Bamban, where she was previously mayor, is located in that province. All in all, there are 7 charges pending against her, and she was citing these charges in refusing to answer lawmakers' questions. She did say she had a death threat. She did not elaborate on the threat, and she also refused to publicly answer lawmakers' questions on who made the threat, citing concerns over her safety.
Madam Chair, wala po din naman po akong plan po na takasan po yung question po. However po, meron lang din po talaga na safety concern po sa sarili ko po, na security concern po, na death threat po na minigay po sa akin. Kaya di ko lang po ma-discuss po sa public po.
When, as you mentioned, there are 7 charges that she faces. Even if the one on lying about identity, that one is overturned, there are others that she has to face. So what can we expect in the days and weeks ahead?
One is, of course, for these pending investigations before the Justice Department to move forward and be filed before the court. 2, which is an challenge issued by Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, who has presided over some of these POGO-related hearings, is for her to reveal any Filipino authority who aided in her escape. Remember that based on immigration records overseas, that she escaped the Philippines back in July, went around 4 Southeast Asian countries, was eventually arrested last week in Tangerang City in Banten Province in Indonesia. And in that hearing, she actually said or reaffirmed a previous revelation that she left the country by yacht. This was first revealed by Sheila Go, who in previous hearings called Alice Go as her half-sister, even if they do not actually share a biological father. But the Justice Department doubts this narrative, so they're still looking at the angle of them leaving the country by private plane, and the Senate still looking at possible lapses in terms of the protocols for the monitoring of entry and exit points out of and into the Philippines. And finally, there is also talk, although the Justice Department said that it is not looking at Alice Go so far as a state witness, but again, the Justice Department's Undersecretary Nicolas Felix T saying that a state witness has to have substantive testimony corroborated by other witnesses and other evidence, and saying that a state witness needs to be someone who is not the most guilty of those accused. And while she refused to answer lawmakers' questions, if her scant disclosures before this Senate panel are to be believed, then Alice Go is claiming that she is not the most guilty of those accused.
Clarify ko lang po, Sen, wala po akong POGO at hindi rin po ako nagra-run po ng POGO.
Now, Go is currently detained at a custodial center within the national headquarters of the Philippine Police, and she was arrested upon arrival here in the Philippines last week on the basis of that court-issued arrest warrant by the Northern Philippine Province Tarlac Court. But the Senate panel is saying that it will inform the court that it issued this citation contempt again, and that's still unclear if that will change the custody over Go.
We'll see what happens on these many charges that Alice Go faces. Bernard Bundle reporting live to us there from Manila.